Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good
Hey, good
afternoon.
afternoon. Good afternoon.
Thanks for
Welcome.
joining us, everybody.
Thanks for another week of joining us for Anything Goes. Should be a really great show today. We have a really interesting Temple member who's joining us, Alan Pullman. So
yeah, I'm really excited. And if you're just signing on, feel free to type in the comments so we can greet you properly and say hello.
People still may be getting home from their from the tourist study drive-by that they were just. So I'm assuming we'll get that mad rush of people that they're racing home.
Yeah. Greetings to Jael Hadif. Shabbat Shalom to you. It's hard to believe it is now the end of June. I have a Facebook friend who every day just posts the date. I think just so we can all remember where we are in this crazy time.
Yeah, it's bizarre, right? Summer is upon us, and I guess we're waiting for drastic changes, but
yeah, I kind of feel like I'm just not in the summer rhythm, with Camp Newman's not being, in session. I just kind of feel like our family is a little out of sync for summer.
Yeah, and I mean, what we've been talking, just that. What we all depend on, right? We all depend on, for parents and getting our own head straight, right? Of the summer and having the kids be busy with different activities and giving ourselves a chance to rejuvenate and re-energize. So it takes different shape. Fortunately, the JCC is open their swimming pool back up. So if you schedule it, you can go for a swim.
Yeah, that's really nice.
So, but you're not allowed to use you're still not allowed to use the locker room. So you got to go home wet. So,
so bring extra towels.
Bring extra towels.
That's funny. I see that my parents are here. Hi, Mom and Dad. And we've got 8 or so people that are with us, Eric. So again, if you're watching and want to say hello, we'd love to greet you by name. Just say hello in the comments. So speaking of rejuvenating, you all may notice that I've got a different background. I feel like people have gotten to know my house in different backgrounds around my home. I try not to do all of my Facebook programs or Zoom programs from the same background in my house, just to keep it interesting for all of our viewers. But
so that's not a virtual. That's not a virtual background of a country house. This is not
a virtual background, although it practically looks like one. My husband Adam and I are up in Santa Ynez for the weekend. We did a little weekend getaway, our first time to be away, of course, since the beginning of the quarantine. So we're enjoying some quiet up here, and our children are in Long Beach. So I doubt they're watching the show though.
We're gonna miss Zuko at the meeting.
Oh, that's true. My dog won't be here. Sorry, everybody, to interrupt.
Keeping your feet warm, or however that goes. So this week, if you've been participating with other temple things, many of you know this is Rabbi Simon's last week with us. His year of interim rabbiship is coming to a close, and he'll be leading his last services this weekend. Tonight's last Friday night service with Kenner Haas, and then a final Torah study tomorrow, and then Saturday morning services. So if you have enjoyed Rabbi Simon's time with us, I encourage you to come online for any of those and show him your appreciation and give him your thanks.
I'm sure he would love that. And I know that this afternoon around 3:30, we had a group of people from the Torah study group who organized a little bit of a drive-by caravan for Rabbi Simon. They came by the temple to greet him and say hi as a surprise. I'm sure that he loved that. So thanks to everyone who participated in that. I'm sure it was lots of fun.
And then this upcoming week, so now it's been a week and a half. We had a food drive, and if you missed the opportunity or want to participate again, this upcoming week we have another food drive being organized by our Social Action Committee. We had Paul Levitt on, I think, as well, or we welcomed him in another program, actually. Paul Levitt as the chair of our Social Action Committee. So if you can join us June 30th or July 1st, there will be a tent set up or a couple of easy ups set up outside the temple, and you can just pull up, and we have volunteers who will grab the food from you. They'll be all protected and safe and mask wearing, and I know
we would be doing COVID-19 testing. I'm just joking. No.
It's not that kind of testing. Although I bought the thermometers, so if we need it, if anybody wants a check, I guess we could do that. But
July 1st, speaking of July 1st, if people bring their food on July 1st, maybe they'll have a chance to spot Rabbi Fox, who will be starting on July 1st, Temple Israel. Very exciting for all of us.
Find the fox, spot the fox.
Yeah. I don't know if he knows about the food drive yet, but maybe he'll pop outside for a little while.
Yeah, and I'm sure actually he'll be here in the building on that day as he starts to get settled in and jumping right into all the planning that we are about to undergo, and actually have started undergoing for the end of summer and for the high holidays, and Sharon, you and I are both looking forward to working with him in taking a look at our year ahead.
Absolutely. And lots of conversations, of late about how we figure out the next steps of bringing our community together, both virtually and in person. And we're hoping to create some opportunities for people to come together in small groups to see one another, to see the staff, to meet Rabbi Fox. So please look out for those details. They will be coming soon.
Yeah, and specifically, I know that there are some meet and greets that are being set up by our welcoming and transition committee that people have an opportunity. There'll be a link in an email that they could sign up for a specific day and time where we are arranging these online groups to meet with our new rabbi. And I know he's looking forward to that. So yeah, keep an eye out next week in your email. That'll be going out.
Terrific. We're very excited about that indeed. Yeah, so lots of exciting things for the summer, both at Temple Israel, and I want to bring everyone's attention to some of the stuff that the Reform Movement is doing. We've included some of it in our emails and on our Facebook page. On Sunday nights, the URJ summer camps are doing, I think they're calling them campfire concerts, and they're every Sunday evening throughout the summer with all of the big Jewish musicians each week. So check that out. Great way to hear some of your favorites. I know that this Sunday night, Dan Nichols will be the star of the concert. And for those of you who know Dan, he's an incredible musician and a friend of Temple Israel. He's been to our congregation a couple of times and helped lead Havdalah for us a couple months ago via Zoom. So check him out on Sunday night. The Reform Movement is also doing a bunch of adult education classes, the summer camps of other programs going on. So be sure to check out the links that we've posted or just go to urj.org to get a sense of what they're offering.
And as we come up with them, yes, when we post them as well in our weekly emails, if we think there's a good opportunity, interesting classes that are being offered, yes. We're all looking for things to do to fill our time, and many of them are either very low cost or no cost. So really encourage people to continue to find creative ways to fill their days.
Eric, another thing that we had this week was our Joys of Jewish Learning conversation, discussion about the movie Fiddler, Miracle of Miracles, the documentary about Fiddler on the Roof. That was last night. a great conversation that was facilitated by Kelly Cooper Perler, sorry, Kelly, and we had a nice group of people on that call. A lot of love for that musical. It's a great documentary. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, I recommend it. It's on Amazon Prime, and I learned a lot of information about the play and movie that I had not known before. So if you're a lover of tradition, check it out.
Were you ever in that musical, or?
No, I was never in it. I've seen it several times, but I was not in that one. What about you? Were you ever in Fiddler?
I was not in Fiddler, but I did sing at Camp Hess Kramer for one of the summer shows. I did sing If I Were a Rich Man.
Ah, okay. There you go.
That was my big claim to fame.
Yeah, it's a great documentary, really talking about the relevance of the show and why it really came on so strong when it did in the 1960s. And then, what was happening in our world between the 1960s to the 1970s when the movie came out. Just really interesting kind of cultural sense of our country. Yeah, I suggest it very much. Probably one of the most, hold on here. All right.
Thank you to our technical.
Yes, thank you. A little behind the scenes there. One of the most interesting things about touches about the movie was talking about the universal appeal of the story and why is it so appealing to people of all ages and of all cultures. They say that this show has been produced in almost every country. They talked about when the show opened in Japan and it came on, it was so well received, and someone said, this show was so popular in Japan, but I have a question. I mean, is it popular in the United States? Do people really understand it in America? Because it's such a Japanese story. So
the idea of that tradition, that culture, that respect for parents,
and the generational differences, and yeah, so
interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. And I shared the story last night. Just a fun little story of the last time I saw Fiddler on the Roof. We took all 4 of our kids to see it when our youngest Levi was a toddler. And during intermission, it was like a community theater kind of production. And during intermission, we went to the lobby and they had a table full of refreshments. And Levi was a few steps ahead of me. And by the time I got there, he had taken all these different desserts, like cookies and cake, and filled up like a plate.
He was used to the eggs.
That's exactly right. The woman says to me, "Oh, that'll be $15 or $16," and I was shocked. And I looked at Levi, and he thought it was a temple oneg. Just help yourself. So maybe the idea, Eric, is that we need to charge per piece at the oneg.
Maybe we'll put a
all those kids and toddlers with all that cake. And
I thought you were going to tell me that during the show that he had a sort of an outburst. I know when we took Max when he was 4 years old to see The Lion King, and the part where the father was pushed off the ledge and is killed was too dramatic for my son, and this little 4-year-old was screaming in the Pantages going, "Is he dead? Is he dead? I want to go home." So we didn't take Max to another show for a while.
That's very funny. Well, I just want to greet some of the people that have joined us on Facebook. Greetings to Robin Lillian, to our old friend Juan Lopez. Hello, Juan.
Juan makes thanks. He's our weekly fan.
You are. So. Thanks, Juan. Really, Juan could have been our guest on Anything Goes.
We could do that. We could do a catch up with Juan. So
I just want to invite everyone throughout our interview with Alan Pullman. If you have any comments or questions for him, please feel free to put it in the comments so that we can share your questions with him, pass them along. So I guess we, hello, Judy Leff is here. Any other thing else before we bring Alan on, Eric?
No, I'm interested to hear what Alan has to say, so let's do it.
Terrific. All right, let me bring him on. All right, here he is. There he is. Hi, Alan.
Hi, Alan.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I was watching you, but there's a delay, so I didn't
Ah.
expect to be on. It's great.
Glad you're
You're
there.
live now. Yes, you're here now.
Okay. Great to be here.
Thanks.
Well, welcome, Alan. We're so glad that you're here. Welcome to Anything Goes. This is our, I think maybe our 5th or 6th
I think
sixth show that we've been doing on Friday afternoons, and we're thrilled to have you as a guest. So if I can, I will just do a little bit of a formal introduction. Alan and his wife Stephanie and their children have been members of Temple Israel for about 25 years. I remember meeting the Pullmans when I first came to Temple Israel. They just had their older daughter Allison, who I think was in maybe my 7th or 8th grade class at the time. And she grew up through the temple and then went on to do her own great things. And she's actually expecting a baby. So Alan is going to be a grandfather soon. I can't believe it, Alan, but
I can't either.
yeah, as long as we're not getting any older, then it's all good.
Exactly.
So in addition to Allison, Stephanie and Alan have 2 younger daughters, Chloe and Sasha, and who we know quite well, both active members of our youth group. Sasha is our brand new president of our youth group. Professionally, Alan is founder and principal architect of Studio 111 and leads design teams on mixed use, urban infill, and adaptive reuse projects. With over 30 years of experience in architecture and urban design, Alan has led project teams on a number of award-winning developments throughout Long Beach and Southern California and beyond. Alan was also very involved in our own temple remodel in 2010 to 2012, and worked as an integral part of that committee team, meeting weekly prior to and during construction. Lots of fond memories of that project with Alan and others. Most recently, Alan and Studio 111 have been involved with helping Long Beach to visualize how to transform our streets in the downtown area and 2nd Street to include sidewalk dining and available spaces for restaurants to allow them to reopen. So Alan, we're really happy that you're here and looking forward to a great conversation.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
All right. So first of all, I mean, how are you? How have you been? You know, how have you been the last 3 months? Having quarantined, and how's it been with your family? So
no, it's been good. I'm fine. My family is doing very, very well. I guess we're lucky in that we're sort of safe and comfortable in our quarantine, and everything's been working out. You know, Sasha, one of my twin daughters, was in Israel when this year started. She was doing Heller High School, which is 11th grade in Israel, and she was supposed to be there throughout the whole year. And I remember taking her to the airport, and there was a news crew at the terminal, and they were interviewing people, and they were saying, "Are you worried about the coronavirus?" And I was like, "No, that's in China, and I don't think that's going to affect us. I have no worries about it at all. I think it'll be not an issue." So I was really wrong about that. And I'm somewhere, there's an archive of me saying that. But Sasha did go. We did go to get to visit her during Parent Pilgrimage, which was the end of February. And while we were there, things started to really change. And so by the time our trip was over, the beginning of March, we started to sense that things were really shifting. But we told Sasha, "You're going to be here in Israel. You're going to be fine. You're safer here than in the US." We came home, and then a week later, they sent her home, which was pretty crushing to her because she was about a third way through a program that she was absolutely loving. And so that was hard for everyone. And then we went into quarantine, and the rest is history. But she actually finished her 11th year through Heller High School online. And one of the challenges of that is the teachers are in Israel. There are some kids on the East Coast, some in the Midwest, some in California. So you can imagine the scheduling issues around creating classes with that span of geography.
I'm sure. Was she having to get up really early?
Yes, very, very early. She was done at school by 10 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
But she had to get up at 5.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad she got a taste of Israel, and hopefully she'll get a chance to go back. But
And
It
we
should be a
got
disappointment.
we're lucky that we were able to go because, you know, a
Mhm.
week later, I think it wouldn't have happened. So we just feel grateful that that happened. And since we've been back, we've all been at home working and we're still working from home um, remotely. And it's been challenging, but good too.
Mhm. Yeah, I know that my son Brandon was supposed to be in Israel this summer on a nifty trip, and they said that was canceled. So lots of things to look forward to.
Yes.
Hopefully next summer
When,
for all these
exactly
kids.
when things change. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Alan, in terms of your firm, were they approached directly by the city of Long Beach, or how did have you had a sort of longstanding relationship with them in terms of working with you in terms of
The streetscape work we've done, we've worked with the city for many years, but we saw that some cities in Europe were starting to experiment with outdoor dining zones as a way of restarting their economies. And we know that retail and restaurants are the heart in leisure and hospitality of the hardest hit um, job sectors in this economic downturn caused by the pandemic. And we also know that the people working in retail and in restaurant work are some of the lowest paid income wise. And so they have the least resources to weather this. So we understood like the need to maybe restart some of these restaurants, but how do you do it safely? I mean, with social distancing. And one of the things we saw in research was that being outdoors is one of the safest places to be, that the transmission rates are much lower outdoors. And with distancing, you can envision reopening a restaurant in an outdoor setting. Plus, if you had distance tables, you'd need more space. And so let's expand outside to do that. And in our cities, there's not always a lot of room to do that, but repositioning some street infrastructure could do that. So we took on the idea of just about how this could work, and we did some drawings, and we found a lot of interest. A lot of people were very, very interested in this and were picking up on it and said, this is a great idea. So one day we actually went out there and sort of a guerrilla tactic. We actually implemented one of these outdoor dining areas and repositioned it. We did it downtown in front of a place called Pie Bar and Romeo's Chocolate, which is on Pine Avenue. Some friends of ours own those shops. So we tried it out to see what it would look like, how it would feel. And there was a tremendous amount of interest in that. I think I was on the news like 5 times that week from CBS. And it was just a really interesting topic that a lot of people were interested in. And the city saw that and were simultaneously thinking, we've really got to create a program around this. So we helped them, and they did a lot of the work themselves, but we helped them with this Open Streets Long Beach program, which you're starting to see pop up in areas like Bixby Knolls and 2nd Street, a little bit in downtown. But that's just the beginning. I think it's going to we're going to see a lot more in the next couple of weeks of larger outdoor dining areas popping up and streets being closed for both recreation and for business.
Very nice. So I imagine it's going to have a significant impact on parking and traffic. How does that, are you involved with those conversations, or does that someone else's department?
Well, we're involved in it. And so this program is actually running through the city's traffic department. It's through Public Works and the traffic department. So the traffic engineers are actually the ones behind implementing it. So they're looking at, well, if we do it, we don't want to cause anything dangerous, for sure.
Sure.
We have lost Alan.
We lost Alan's video for a second. Sorry, well, he will be coming right back. You know, I'm just thinking about the restaurants along 4th Street, you know, Retro Row area. They have some outdoor dining already, like with Lola's and other restaurants have the outdoor seating. I know Lola's does, and I've sat out there before, and happened to go on a walk on 4th Street recently and saw people, you know, out there with the restaurants been reopened, and seemed like people were able to sit far enough apart. Yeah. I know our family hasn't tried that yet, going to a restaurant, but I guess when we do, it'll probably be an outdoor seating environment to get us started.
No, our family hasn't ventured out that way either. We've taken some walks, gone to in Seal Beach actually. It looks like they've sort of spaced out seating somewhat, but they haven't set up the real outdoor dining, and it doesn't look like they're enforcing the social distancing as much as you may have thought that they would be. But so it's going to be interesting to see how, especially now that cases are spiking, all around, that whether the openings continue and whether it all goes sort of as business as usual, and we keep on that path, or whether there's going to be some further restrictions that are going to be.
Right. Yeah, I do find it interesting that how those different issues are enforced / policed. It's tricky,
Yeah.
right?
Right. And different cities, different counties Orange County has different rules and different things that they're willing to enforce than LA County. And there was just actually I think a court ruling in New York that came down today that says religious organizations don't have to enforce that 25% capacity rule that was set up as sort of part of the CDC guidelines.
Interesting.
So it'll be interesting to see which organizations, which religious organizations, because there are some who it doesn't matter what the guidelines are anyway, that they're going to be more protective of their members, and then there's organizations that are feel like their people need to be in the sanctuary, and and they'll just accept the consequences. So
Yeah, that will not be us.
that will not be us.
Not be us. It looks like Alan is back. Let me bring him back in.
Okay, why not? Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I don't know what happened there. I had a technical difficulty. Have you had any technical difficulties with some of our remote things?
You're a first.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's live television,
So it was a good test for Sharon and I, whether we can keep the conversation going. We did okay. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes. Okay, good. Well, I meant to plan that there, make it a little interesting for you.
Yes.
Shake it up. Yeah. Anyway,
so you were saying about you're working with the traffic department.
Yes.
Making sure that things are safe.
Yeah. So the traffic department, they're very actually in Long Beach progressive, and they are making sure that pedestrian safety and vehicular safety is the number one thing. We have to make sure that everything is safe. So they're not going to allow anything that really causes too much congestion or anything dangerous in terms of sight lines or pedestrians. So a lot of it is done with that in mind. But what we're seeing, at least currently, and you have to remember, this program is going to run through, I believe, October, is there's really still now, even within our city streets, a lot of traffic is down. Parking demand is somewhat down. So even though it could eventually cause some problems, it's a test. And these are fairly easy installations to put up and also then take down if things don't work out. Or if, for instance, we take out a series of parking spaces, but then the demand comes back, it won't be hard for the city to go back in and change it. So these aren't permanent improvements by any means. These are really temporary measures to help businesses do better.
I see. I was talking to Eric while you were gone on about Lola's on 4th Street. I'm kind of picturing it like that. Is that kind of what this would look like? Or would these be larger eating areas where you'd actually, like, for example, close 4th Street to any driving any cars?
Right. So it's funny because Lola's was the first parklet. We call them parklets in Southern California. We did that for that Lewis, the owner there, several years ago. And it was really an experiment in taking some parking spaces, but creating outdoor dining. And it's really helped his business tremendously. It's similar to that. And they've gone up, you'll see them on 2nd Street in front of George's Greek Cafe and Open Sesame, as well as Legends and I think Aroma d'Aroma. So it's very similar to that concept, but in a temporary way. They're not permanent improvements. They're actually made with these water-filled barriers that protect the diners, and then plywood and some other kind of fairly inexpensive materials to really create a sense of place.
Nice.
Those are the original ones. Now, there's some areas where whole streets might lose a lane, but the traffic engineers feel like we don't need that lane, and that whole area could be turned into a flex zone. And I think 4th Street is going to see some of that. Alleys are being reconverted into outdoor dining areas, similar to what you might see in Italy or any European country. So it's really a test on how we can expand dining and sometimes other activities onto our streets. And I could see it becoming, some of them may be permanent, and some of it might be, this is what we do in the summers to expand outdoor dining options, and it really becomes something that the community embraces.
Yeah, I noticed, near our house, we have the Holy Moly at PCH and Clark, and they have there was some property, undeveloped property on the side of the restaurant, I guess behind the restaurant. And we just noticed the other day when we were on a walk, they built a big kind of cement patio back there for additional dining. So yeah.
For the Holy Mollies there.
For the Holy Moly, at least there near our house.
Yeah, I know exactly where that is.
Yeah, we have a question in the comments. Wondering if there's been any pushback from other parts of the community on some of these initiatives.
Some stores, so restaurants have been some of the biggest proponents, obviously, because they can benefit the most because they're going to use a lot of the outdoor dining. Some retail stores feel like they don't want it because they need the parking and they need passenger pickup and loading. That's another piece of I meant to mention, there are also a lot of these are incorporating, we've started to do this in different areas, like 5-minute pickup and loading for people that don't want to be in a store but are willing to pick up. So that's also part of it, those kind of flex zones. There's been a little bit of pushback, and everything. What I think the success of this, though, is everyone understands it. There has to be a kind of consensus amongst the business owners and the property owners. So there'll be some give and take there. But it's, when you're looking at our sort of streetscape ecosystem, the restaurants bring people and they go shopping. So everyone sees the benefits of this. And it's really finding the right balance between parking and traffic and then people space, which we need as well.
Yeah, I think this is a really great example of one of the silver linings of this time in history, right? It's forcing us to be creative, and it sounds like this would be I know right now it's a temporary solution, but maybe it'll end up being a long-term option for these restaurants and businesses.
Well, temporary solutions are really kind of important because they allow you to experiment with things and test them out without spending a lot of money. And that's really what the goal is here. The city's doing all this work. This is at no cost to any of the stores that request it, except for the furniture and the maintenance that they have to do. So I think the city's going out there to really help the businesses in this respect. And I think testing things out and trying things out is really a great way to really figure out how we want our cities to be and our public spaces to be. We're big proponents of that.
Yeah, it's really very dynamic.
Yeah, and I think it's a credit to you and the firm that it was, on their own, that it seems like you started working on this and tried to become creative and take things out there and see how the city responded to it, as opposed to waiting till someone asks you for your input.
Yeah, I think we really were looking at how can we help, and we really saw this as a way of jumping in and taking a little bit of initiative in how we can jumpstart some of this. So it was a good effort, and it was well received by the city. And now we're working in Glendale on a similar effort, even actually a bigger one in their downtown. Costa Mesas contacted us about doing something similar, and downtown Torrance. So we're getting some interest from other cities as well.
That's great. We can say it all started here in Long Beach.
We can say that, yeah.
Long Beach Pride.
Exactly.
We knew him when he was.
So speaking of Long Beach, Alan, we know that your firm is located in the downtown area. Wondering about the impact of the recent civil unrest in the downtown area on your firm, and how you guys fared that time, and is it still impacting your work?
So that's obviously the other. Of course, we started this reopening process, and then we obviously had the unrest, the protests, and sort of real discussions about issues around racism, diversity, inclusion, something that we've always been thinking about, but it really came to our front door because our office is in a storefront in downtown Long Beach at 3rd and the Promenade in Long Beach and 3rd Street in downtown Long Beach. And we've been working on revitalization of a whole area in downtown called the Streets, which is where our office is. And on Sunday evening, there was quite a bit of vandalism going on after what was throughout that whole night a very peaceful protest. And we were a little concerned about it because the previous night, Los Angeles had a peaceful protest that also devolved a little bit into vandalism. So we had some concerns, but it really was right around our office where a lot of the destruction happened. And I was actually watching it on CBS News as it was happening, so it was a little bit surreal. The reality is that the damage that we faced was not major, and it was able to be repaired and fixed within a few days. And it was graffiti and some TV monitors stolen and some elements smashed. But I have to say it was really minor. Some of our neighbors certainly suffered a lot more. But it brought home the fact that we're part of a community. And when that community is suffering, when there's frustrations, when there's problems, we need to be there to understand them and try to help provide solutions and also make sure that we're not part of the problem. So it's caused a lot of soul searching within our own practice about what we're doing and what we need to do better. And I mentioned to you earlier when we were speaking that today we had yesterday we had a town hall on diversity, equity, and inclusion, just to address the fact that as architects, as a profession, we've done not a very good job in being a diverse field, and we need to change that. We work in so many diverse neighborhoods, but yet our staff doesn't really necessarily reflect that diversity, those experiences, and it's something that we're really looking to try to make some improvements on.
Interesting. And you're involved with the National Architects Organization, or is it a local organization?
Yeah, this has been going on for a little while at the national level, and it's really picked up quite a bit at both national, local. Another organization that we're going to increase our involvement in is something called NOMA, which is the North American, it's the National Organization of Minority Architects. And it was started in Detroit by 7 Black architects. And it's been an organization, the current president used to work for me, that is really trying to create, increase the diversity within the field. I mean, the statistics, I think, are that only 2% of architects are African-American men and 0.03% are African-American women. So very low numbers.
Fascinating. Like it could only go up from there.
Yeah, and it's a long-term commitment, though. It's not going to change overnight, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But that's just one of the things we're doing.
No, I was just saying that and it's important and interesting to sort of take a look back or take a look at how we do things really from the bottom up, and whether it's fostering a continued exclusion of minorities. As I was listening to an interview with Jon Stewart earlier this week, and he said, he recognized when he was doing The Daily Show that part of for a while they had unpaid interns. And the fact that it was an unpaid internship really only allowed the pool of interns to be people who could afford to do an unpaid internship, which was racially skewed white. And then they were sort of fooling themselves in terms of diversity in saying, well, we need a woman on our staff, you know, and hiring instead of really looking at the core of what was causing the issues and really something as simple as deciding to pay interns, diversified the pool of interns that they were, and really diversified their staff. So looking at the core of what we do and how that affects everything else is really important.
That's a great story too, because unpaid interns, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And in fact, I have to be honest, like years ago, we had unpaid interns as well. And we haven't done that for a long time, but that's a very good thing to be looking at. And there's so many items like that we all have to be sort of examining in a deeper way. So those are some of the things that we're dealing with while we also are dealing with an economic downturn and trying to keep all our employees busy and occupied and feeling useful. So those are some of the challenges.
So had otherwise had the sort of the, I've a friend who's more into the design element, and I know that with the effect of the pandemic, the amount that people were willing to spend on those sort of creative elements in design was affected. Had it affected sort of the overall work involved in as far as that people approaching your office for projects, or was that why initially you sort of spurned into we have time, let's think creatively about what we can do, or was things happening simultaneously?
Probably simultaneously, though, probably was a factor there, but definitely we're seeing, just like we kind of roll with the economy. So we have a lot of public sector work, and city budgets are really hurting, and other public sector clients are hurting as well. We do a lot of work with LA County Metro, which is the transit agency in terms of planning transit and transit-oriented projects, and their revenue is down something like 90% because no one's on public transit. So they're telling us, well, these projects, we're going to have to do more with less. So we're feeling those fee pressures. We're okay right now, but it is, you know, of concern, and I'm trying to make sure that we're staying busy. And I definitely don't see a downturn happening. And we're so far managing it fairly well, but it is real, and we're lucky. There's people that are totally out of work, and I have to sort of count my blessings in that regard.
Right. So Alan, you know, sort of thinking back upon all those years ago when we were doing the Temple Israel remodel, I'm just wondering if you have any specific memories or reflections on that project, and as we all went through it together, any memories come to mind?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, Eric and I could talk about some of the memories that happened after we were done, and we thought, well, I don't want to get into that, but
you mean when we thought we were done?
When we thought we were done, and weren't quite there. It's very interesting also to be, you know, one of those long timers when you realize there are people at the synagogue who don't remember what the old synagogue was, or forgot what it was like. And it's hard to, you know, we should have a wall of pictures of this is what it was just a few years ago.
I have so many photos. I've talked about it for a long time. I've never done it. Should probably just send the pictures to somebody else for them to do it, to put together a little scrapbook of the before and after photos and all the construction pictures. We have a lot of them, but yeah, it's amazing how the institutional memory can be short for some people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there were some moments that really stood out when we saw, and we were part of hiring the architect, Trevor Abramson, and just seeing how our input, he was able to take our input and come up with something kind of very poetic and still functional, was really, for me as an architect, being on the client side, and I felt like I was the
Mhm.
client, was really, really kind of fun. I loved it. And I still take credit for it, but didn't have to do any of the work. So that was really good. But it was really just great to see the design emerging. But even more exciting was when we were in construction and seeing it take form and realizing, I mean, this is always one of the greatest things about being an architect. You have a dream, and you put it on paper, you think you know what it'll be like, and then you actually get to see it built. And it's a very powerful feeling. And this is one project that I think, as a transformative project, really actually exceeded my expectations. It was just so exciting to see. And even still, every time I come to the temple, I'm very, very proud of the work we all did as a group, and how we revitalized what was a great, strong congregation, spiritually and morally, but physically, we created a place that paid tribute to that spirit. And so,
and I think it really had an effect on the temple's growth over the next few years after the remodel. The design really created a sense of energy and community and welcoming and all those things that you probably look to expect, but as an outsider, as a not architect, you hope those things will happen, but you really don't know how the construction is going to affect the community, and I think it really did.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is just the aesthetic quality of the space, but I don't remember. Do you guys remember what it was like in that little lobby and those weird ramps and just the functional quality?
I remember it well. I remember that little space like outside my office, like our parents had to gather, and
yeah,
it was pretty bad.
So it really just works so much more. And the kind of foyer we have in that small space, in front of the library, and how those function, and the serendipitous kind of meetings you can have with people, the gatherings or the small conversations, that sense of community that can be created out of the physical space, I think has been really just fantastic to see. So yeah. It's again, I'm really always, maybe one of my most proudest achievements is being on that committee and seeing that project through, and just fantastic.
Yeah, I just remember when we were all sitting around the table in what is now our garden view room. At the time, it was the library, and hearing those presentations from the different architects, and
yes.
And there was that, that famous moment when the firm that we hired, they held up the talit, right?
Yeah.
And showed us symbolically what our sanctuary was going to look like. And it was just this moment. We knew that was the right firm. And and now we get to have a reminder of that every time we walk into our sanctuary. And I love telling people about that story. It's not one of those things that's necessarily obvious when you first walk into our sanctuary, but as soon as someone explains it, they're like, I get it, I see it.
Yeah, it doesn't hit you over the head, but it's a very powerful metaphor. And it was, I remember that moment too. And it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that was the moment I was like, this is going to be great.
Yeah. And then we had that whole process of involving so many of our congregants, in the focus groups and what was important to them. And then we were able to integrate all that input into the plan. It was a time of great unity for our community, for sure. And, now we all get to enjoy the benefit of that hard work. And it's not just for our congregation, but really for the wider community. When I think ever since the remodel, we've really been able to bring in a lot of outside groups, people who had never been into the synagogue before, and now have come in either out of curiosity or because we're just a more desirable space, and people have programs and meetings and events at Temple Israel.
Yeah, it's great. And I have to give Eric a lot of credit because, it's one thing to build it, but then you have to manage it, maintain it. And I'm always thinking about those things, and I'm really glad that he's the guy that's making it happen.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Any more questions do we have in the chat, or?
No, just, some nice compliments saying they're enjoying the presentation and thanks for the great work, that kind of stuff. No other questions. But we do like to conclude our our interviews on Anything Goes with a series of short questions that Eric will present to you. But they were made famous by James Lipton and his show Inside the Actors Studio. I don't know if you ever watched that show, Alan. But it was a great interview show with famous actors. And after a really thoughtful conversation, he would ask these questions each time. So Eric, I will turn it
I'm
over to
probably
you.
more familiar with the Will Ferrell satire of it on Saturday Night Live. Yeah.
Well, so just imagine me in the get up with the balloon, and so.
May
All
do
right,
your
so-
best. May hear your best accent, Eric. You know.
I wish I could do James Lipton. It's a very pretentious. So Alan, all right. So anyway, with these questions, just answer what comes to mind. Have fun with them, and don't give them too much thought. Yeah.
Okay.
The first question is, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word?
Your favorite word.
Good.
What's your least favorite word?
Fine.
Ah,
My wife agrees with you.
how was school today? Fine. Fine.
Yeah, don't like that one.
Mhm.
What sound or noise do you love?
What sound or noise do I love? This is the weirdest thing, and my family's really going to be mad at. I hope they're not watching this, but actually, I like the sound of whispering. I've been listening to these ASMR videos, and I kind of like that whispering sound that
Interesting.
you get out of those. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know those videos.
Yeah,
Well, I'll check them out.
yeah, that maybe not, but anyway.
I thought they were sort of fetish videos, but I don't know. Is it not?
No. Well, I don't know.
I don't know. So the
But
whisper.
I like the sound of whispering. I don't know why.
Okay.
Maybe in this time of all the anxiety and stress, whispering is a calming kind of sound.
And a lot of people are yelling at each other right now and arguing about things. So
That's true. Maybe it's that too.
Right. So maybe this will be. So now, what sound or noise do you hate?
Leaf blowers, because I've been working from home and I didn't realize how many leaf blowers we have pretty much constantly in my neighborhood. Probably yours too.
Mhm.
Most of them. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I think this is a new thing for me. I think I'd like to be a teacher. I'm inspired by my wife, who's an amazing educator, but being a teacher seems like a fantastic profession.
Oh, nice.
Any particular, like, is there an age group as more like a professional or as a?
Well, I guess I would want to teach what I know, design, but yeah.
And then what profession would you definitely not like to do?
I think all professions are awesome. I mean, that's a tough one. What profession would I not want to do? I don't want to diss anyone. Like whatever I say, I think I'm gonna. So somebody does it, and they probably do it really, really well. So I'll say I don't want to be a politician. I don't particularly think that's a good one.
Okay. And last question is: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome. Can I get you anything?
Cocktails are to your right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's your drink of choice? Exactly.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Well, Alan, thank you so much for this really, really great conversation. I know Sharon and I both really enjoyed having you
Thanks.
and hearing your insights, and you know, it's been really our pleasure welcoming you to this week's show.
Well, thank you, and it's been great to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks again, Alan. It's been fun having you, and we wish you a Shabbat Shalom, and please send our love to your family.
I will. Shabbat Shalom.
All right. Shabbat Shalom, Alan.
Okay.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye now.
Bye.
All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us for Anything Goes. It's been a super fun episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. I certainly learned a lot, and I've known Alan a long time, but learned some things about him I didn't know before. So that's always great. And we want to thank everyone for joining us. And we're going to actually be taking July off for Anything Goes. So we will probably be back in August. And we want to thank you for, hanging out with us on Friday afternoons for the past 6 weeks. We've really enjoyed the program. Eric and I were saying it's been a highlight of each of our weeks.
Absolutely. And if you have any thoughts about people you'd like to hear us interview or talk to, or any topics that come to your mind, feel free to email either Sharon or I, and we'll look to bring that guest in. So. Absolutely.
So we wish everyone a wonderful Shabbat ahead. Please don't forget to join us tonight for Shabbat services, and tomorrow morning for Torah study and Shabbat services, and Havdalah on tomorrow night. And it's your chance to say farewell and thank you to Rabbi Simon for his service to our congregation.
Great. Well, Sharon, enjoy your weekend away.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And we'll be signing off. And actually, I'm going to sign back on for services, but I'm like on semi-vacation,
We should take a picture of the different of your background, so maybe you can use it for the future.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yes,
it's a good one.
Yeah.
So.
Very good, everyone. Well, Shabbat Shalom to you, Eric, and Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Bye now.